Hi, I'm the History Guy. I have a degree in history and I love history, and if you love history too, this is the channel for you. Following their defeat at the Battle of Kasserine Pass in Tunisia in North Africa on February 20th, 1943, the American Army was in headlong, disorganized retreat. The battle represented the first major engagement between American troops and Axis troops in the Second World War, and it was a significant defeat for the Americans. Now, historians have tended to talk about the significance of the Battle of Kasserine Pass in terms of the important reforms that were forced upon the U.S. Army as a result of the defeat. But that perspective ignores a frightening fact, and that is the battles around Kasserine Pass also offered the possibility of a war-changing setback for the Allies. But immediately following the defeat at Kasserine Pass, there was an astounding stand in front of the Tunisian town of Thala. And while the Battle of Thala is usually seen as not much more than an afterthought in terms of the larger battles around Kasserine Pass, in fact, it was a valiant and unlikely defense that prevented a disaster for the Allies. And so today I'd like to take some time to appreciate the unlikely and underappreciated defense of Thala on February 21st and 22nd, 1943. The American Army had landed in French Morocco in November of 1942 during Operation Torch and had met only light resistance. By January of 1943, they were pushing through Tunisia, intent on cutting off the German supply at the port city of Tunis. The German commander, Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, decided that he would attack the massing Allied American, French, and British troops. His goal was not just to blunt their expected attack on Tunis, however. Rommel thought that he had the opportunity to take advantage of the green American forces and force a breakthrough that would give him access to the Allied supply depots in Algeria, which would have been an event that could have changed the course of the war in North Africa. Initial attacks by the Afrika Korps and the 5th Panzer Army threw back the Allied lines more than 50 miles and made them defend just a few passes between Tunisia and Algeria. And on February 19th and 20th, Rommel's forces shattered the Americans who were defending a place called Kasserine Pass. The Axis victories to that point had a lot to do with an untested American army that made significant operational and coordination errors in the face of veteran German and Italian troops. Kasserine Pass was seen as a significant defeat for the Americans that highlighted the need to make significant organizational changes. But Kasserine Pass itself did not open the road to the Allied supply depots in Algeria. But Rommel recognized the opportunity and immediately made a dash with the powerful 10th Panzer Division for the Tunisian town of Thala and its critical crossroads. You have to understand the importance of the Tunisian town of Thala. While it's just a small mountain town, it controlled crossroads that go both north into the rest of Tunisia and west into Algeria. Had Rommel taken those crossroads, he would have been able to cut off thousands of American troops that were trying to regroup to the north. Cut off from supply, that would have forced a surrender of significant Allied forces. But even more, that would have left open the western road, which could have allowed Rommel to take the supply depots in Algeria and use those as a base to drive the Americans out of their bridgehead in North Africa. Simply put, Thala was critical. But Thala was only defended by remnants of shattered American forces that had been defeated at Kasserine Pass and some detached elements of the British 6th Army. As the American tanks had all been destroyed or abandoned at the Battle of Kasserine, the only armor that the Allies had to defend the pass against the powerful tanks of the 10th Panzer Division were a few units of British Valentine tanks, which were outdated. And there was nothing else. There were no Allied reserves to reinforce Thala. That's all that faced down Rommel and the 10th Panzer Division. Thala was surrounded by a group of defensible ridge lines, and the troops of the British 26th Armoured Brigade, regiments of the 17th and 21st Lancers, and the Derbyshire Yeomanry defended each ridge line valiantly, but their Valentine tanks were outgunned, and they could only defeat the German tanks at point-blank range. And slowly they were pushed back, ridgeline by ridgeline, losing ever more of their dwindling supply of Valentine tanks. They barely held on through the day of the 21st, and then were attacked again at night. The Germans decided upon a night attack and a ruse. They led their attack with a captured British Valentine tank that fooled the screening infantry and allowed the German army to get very close to the British tanks before they even knew they were under attack. They were given no choice but a desperate counterattack that, while it pushed back the German assault, left the British with only a dozen operable tanks. They knew that they could not possibly survive another attack. The Battle of Thala seemed to have been lost. At the end of their rope, the beleaguered defenders of Thala expected to be brushed aside in the morning, when, almost as if by miracle, a large column came up the road from Algeria. It was the divisional artillery for the American 9th Infantry Division, which was regrouping to the north and had called for their artillery train. The artillery had made an 800-mile forced march trying to rejoin their unit. But when they arrived in Thala, their commander, Brigadier General S. Leroy Erwin, appreciated how important the defense of Thala was, and so ignored his orders to go north and join the defense of Thala. In the morning, Rommel expected to brush aside dispirited forces, and instead was met by a massive artillery barrage from the combined British and American artillery. Concluding that the Allies must have received substantial reinforcements in the night, Rommel decided that he could not win the fight and withdrew. Not just from Thala, but short on fuel, he decided to push all the way back to southern Tunisia. Miraculously, the defenders of Thala, right at the point of their defeat, had emerged victorious. By the end of February, the Allies had retaken all of the ground that Rommel had gained in his offensive. And while Kasserine Pass was seen as a great defeat for the Americans, in the end the Allies had prevented that great breakthrough, so close to Rommel's grasp that could have changed the course of the war in North Africa. The defeats in the Tunisian campaign forced the Americans to make significant organizational and leadership changes, and even Rommel was impressed with how quickly the Americans learned their lessons. But that all would have been irrelevant if Rommel had taken the crossroads at Thala and pushed the Americans out of North Africa before they could even regroup. And yet, surprisingly, the defense of Thala is usually not much more than a footnote in any discussion of the Tunisian campaign. And that's too bad, because the valiant defenders of Thala, who fought an unequal battle with inferior equipment, deserve to be remembered. I'm the History Guy. I hope you enjoyed this edition of my series, 5 Minutes of History, short snippets of forgotten history, 5 to 10 minutes long. If you did enjoy, then please go ahead and click that thumbs up button that is there on your left. If you have any questions or comments, then feel free to write them in the comment section and I will be happy to respond. And if you'd like 5 minutes more forgotten history, all you need to do is click the subscribe button that is there on your right.